Zechariah chapter 5. And I lifted up my eyes again and looked and saw a flying scroll. And he said to me, "What do you see?" And I answered, "I see a flying scroll, 20 cubits long and 10 cubits wide." And he said to me, "This is the curse that goes forth over the face of all the earth. Everyone who is stealing shall go unpunished. And on the one side, according to it, everyone who is sworn falsely shall go unpunished, and on the other side, according to it. I shall send it out, declares Yahweh of hosts, and it shall come into the house of the thief and the house of the one who shall swear falsely by my name. And it shall remain in the midst of the house, of his house, and it shall consume it, both its timber and its stones." And the messenger who was speaking with me came out and lifted me and said to me, "Lift up your eyes now and see, what is this that it is going forth?" And I said, "What is it?" "Manna, what is it?" And he said, "It is an epha measure that is going forth." And again he said, "This is their appearance throughout the earth. And see a lead cover lifted up, and this, a woman sitting inside the epha measure." And he said, "This is wrongness." And he threw her down into the epha measure, and threw the lead weight over its mouth. And I lifted up my eyes and looked, and saw two women coming with the wind in their wings. And they had wings like the wings of a stork. And they lifted up the epha measure between the earth and the heavens. Then I said to the messenger who was speaking to me, "Where are they taking the epha measure?" And he said to me, "To build a house for it in the land of Shinar, and it shall be established and set there on its own base." 11 little verses in Zechariah chapter 5. 11 little verses. And I can't find a single person, I think, that's really got a fullness of understanding on what is happening here. To say that the mainstream Christian commentaries are garbage would be an understatement, in my opinion. Now, we've talked about prophecy being near-term and long-term prophetic, and Zechariah is certainly that near-term prophetic in the time of Zechariah when this was written, approximately 520 BC, but certainly long-term prophetic for us and relating to end times. Chuck Missler has quite the commentary on this that is very interesting, as do many others. Michael Rudin. Here's the thing. I think a lot of people are missing the forest for the trees here. So let's just look at this verse by verse. And I'm, to be clear, not saying that I have it figured out either, because I don't. And that's okay. Deuteronomy 29:29, the secret matters belong to Elohim. But what has been revealed to us and to our children forever to do all the words of this Torah. In other words, meaning we have enough to be obedient in what is explicit in the word. The prophetic, the sod, the mystical, the anagogical oftentimes doesn't make sense until it's happening. So verse 5, "And I lifted up my eyes again, and I looked and I saw a flying scroll." So Zechariah lifts up his eyes, so this is above him. "And I saw a flying scroll." So remember that Torah scrolls were written on parchment and they were rolled. Now we have what are called codexes or sephers, books, right, that are shaped like this. We flip one page to the next, but they used to be scrolls that would be unrolled, unfurled. There were two scrolls, beginning and end, and you would scroll. Now we think of scroll as something you do with your thumb on your existential crisis rectangle, but that you would roll from one scroll to the other. And he, being an angel, a messenger, said to me, "What do you see?" And I, Zechariah, answered, "I see a flying scroll." Okay. 20 cubits long and 10 cubits wide. These are the dimensions of the tabernacle in the wilderness. They're also the dimensions of Solomon's porch, as it was called, in the second temple period. I'm sorry, first temple period. I'm trying not to be distracted. I usually film these very early in the morning, and I'm the only person awake in my house, and I'm not the only person awake in my house right now. And there are voices of people that I love on the other side of that wall right there, and they're distracting me. So Father Yahuwah, keep me on track here. So the dimensions of this scroll are analogous to the dimensions that we would see in the tabernacle in the wilderness after the giving of the covenant at Sinai and the first temple period, aka Solomon's temple. So the Torah was on a scroll, and now we have these. The dimensions of the scroll are analogous to the covenant at Sinai. Okay, cool. And he said to me, the angel said, "This is the curse that goes forth over the face of all the earth." Now, I'm positive many of y'all that are either Torah curious or are now Torah pursuant, Torah observant, you use whatever phraseology you want, that are walking in the commands to the best of your ability, have had somebody in your life who has read the book of Galatians out of context, not understood the words of Paul, and has had that person say to you, "We're not under the curse anymore, the curse of the law." Well, the curse of sin is death, right? And we were redeemed, bought and paid for with a price that we couldn't pay by the blood of Messiah, from having to pay the price of the transgression of the law, which is sin, 1 John 3, verse 4. So that transgression, that sin was paid for. That curse that we earned was lifted. Okay? Excuse me a moment. So, this is the curse that goes forth over the face of all the earth. Everyone who is stealing shall go unpunished. On the one side, according to it, and everyone who has sworn falsely shall go unpunished on the other side, according to it. This isn't Torah. Now, there's a lot of commentary here regarding, so number one, the scroll is unrolled, and it's on, and so there's two sides that can be observed here. Just like the covenant at Sinai. The covenant at Sinai had a front and a back, and it was written through with the finger of Elohim. We oftentimes see this rendered as two stone tablets, one with commands 1 through 5, the other with commands 6 through 10. But that's not the description that the Bible gives us. It was one tablet that was written through with the finger of Elohim, which gets into the whole done away with. Colossians 2. Colossians 2, what was nailed to the stake, the staros, the cross, was the doctrines and dogmas of men. But Yah does not change. Yah, Yeshua, wrote the Torah for Moshe. Malachi 3, verse 6, and the Lord Yahuwah Sabaoth changed not. And if we believe in the doctrine of inerrancy, meaning the Bible is true, even if there's things in it that I can't explain, it doesn't mean that the Bible's the problem. It means that my understanding of the Bible's the problem, and then my understanding will grow through the Ruach HaKodesh, the Holy Spirit. So the Torah, the 10 commands that we see in Exodus 20, was one sheet, one tablet of stone written through by the finger of Elohim. The first command and the 6th command were written at the same time. the second and the seventh, the third and the eighth, the fourth and the ninth, the fifth and the 10th. And there's a lot of commentary about how commands 1 and 6 go together, 2 and 7 go together, 3 and 8 go together, etc. Because we've got two primary directives here, Matthew 22:36. Rabbi, Rabbi, what's the greatest command in all the Torah? There are two. The first is, you shall love the Lord your God, Yahweh your Elohim, with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, with all your strength, with everything you got. The second is like unto it, you shall love your neighbor as yourself, Leviticus 19, verse 18. On this hangs all the Torah and the prophets. Yeah, because half of those commands, the big 10 in Exodus 20, are how you love God with everything you've got. There is no God but God. Remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy. Do not bring his name to naught. Do not take the Lord's name in vain, right? This is how you love God with everything you've got. How do I love my neighbor as myself? Do not steal. Do not bear false witness. Do not covet. Do not adulterate. Okay, this is how you love people. So, the Torah being one sheet of stone with 10 commands, 5 on each side. Now we have this one scroll that is the size of the tabernacle in the wilderness that is written on 2 sides, which is relatively rare for a scroll. Typically, they would be written on one side, the side that would be presented to the reader as they were scrolling from one scroll to the other. And on one side of this scroll, it says, everyone who is stealing shall go unpunished. Well, that's the opposite of do not steal. On the one side, according to it, and everyone who has sworn falsely shall go unpunished. Well, that's the opposite of do not bear false witness. Okay. On the other side, according to it. So this scroll is not the Torah. So the curse here is not Torah. The curse here is lawlessness, because this scroll is lawless. Okay, so go with me here. I shall send it out, declares Yahweh of hosts, and it shall come into the house of the thief, do not steal, and into the house of the one who shall swear falsely by my name, do not bring Yahweh's name to naught. And it shall remain in the midst of his house, and shall consume it, both its timber and its stones. So this lawlessness is going to come into the house of those who are transgressing the Torah of Elohim and consume it. We see this with the Torah for leprosy, which is tedious. If you've read those chapters, it's like, got it. Leprosy's gross. 7 days outside the camp. Ew. Go see the priest. Yuck. Right? But it starts first. Leprosy starts first on the walls of your house. I see, because leprosy is a physical, dermatitis, a skin condition. But it's also a parable. It's also a metaphor for uncleanness. And it starts first on the walls of your house. Hey man, there's green stuff on the wall. You should probably clean that. It's fine. Don't worry about it. And if you don't deal with it on the walls of your house, then it gets on your garment. Bro, there's green, nasty, moldy stuff in the warp and weft of your garment. It's fine. Don't worry about it. And then it's on your skin. And once it's on your skin, the remediation process is now you have to deal directly with your sin, your transgression, your lawlessness. When it's on the wall, you move out of the house. You change. You might tear out some stones, some timbers, reinstall some new ones. If it's really bad, we demolish the house. Also, note the Eastern Hebrew mindset here. The house is expendable. That is the opposite of Western understanding today. No, the house is an asset, right? How many boomers bought their house for $20K, 60 years ago, and it's worth $1 million today? That's more of a commentary on the devaluation of the U.S. dollar, but I digress. The real estate is an asset. The house is not interchangeable. You don't just go get another house or build another house. Well, because we built these houses into palaces and mansions that far exceed in biblical times what even Solomon, the greatest king in all the Bible, had available to him. You know, Pharaoh didn't have an ice machine. Yeah, and he was Pharaoh, the most powerful man in all the world. Nebuchadnezzar didn't have Wi-Fi. But when it's on the walls of your house, you can remove yourself from the sin. Move out of the house. What union does light have with darkness? Okay. Then you pull the bad parts out and you chuck them. You get rid of them and you replace that with good stuff. Remediation of sin. If you don't deal with it, it moves from the wall to your garment. Now it's right next to you. Okay? It's more serious. Has closer proximity to you. You can just change your garment. You can clean the garment that you have. You can observe the garment for 7 days and make sure that the mold doesn't continue to grow. There's 2 ways we clean per the Torah. One's water, the other's fire. If the water doesn't work to clean the garment, then we burn it with fire so the infection, the sin, doesn't spread. So think about Noah's flood. Yah mikvud, cleansed, baptized the whole world other than Noah, his 3 sons, Noah's wife, and their 3 wives. 8 people. A remnant is small, by the way. I know, don't tell that to the Jehovah's Witnesses, but a remnant is small. Noah was righteous in his generations, his Bedor Atav, his DNA. Clean DNA. It's a whole different rabbit hole. You get baptized in the name of Yeshua HaMashiach, Jesus the Christ, cleansed with water as an external demonstration of an internal heart condition, so that at the end of an age, you're not cleansed with fire, burned up in the lake of sulfur and fire, Book of Revelation. Right, so when we think of the sin offering at the temple, it's completely consumed, not with your mouth, it's completely consumed by the fire. We don't partake in it. So the water is kind of our one shot to clean the thing, the garment, your soul, the earth, before we have to clean it with fire. When we clean with water, there's preservation of the thing that's infected. When we clean with fire, there's destruction of the thing that's infected so that it doesn't infect anything else. Okay? So the leprosy moves from the wall to your garment. Nah, I just change my garments, especially in today's day and age. Everybody's got extra clothes. If you don't, you can go to the dollar store or the Goodwill and get some relatively inexpensively. Back in the day, garments were highly prized, highly valued. Lots of labor went into making a garment. But if you don't deal with it when it's on your garment, then it gets on your skin. And now we've got a problem. You should have dealt with it when we had standoff from the sin, when it was all the way over there. And then we got a second warning. Now it's on our garment. Now we still didn't deal with it. Now it's on our skin. And so this curse that's going throughout the land is unrighteousness. It's lawlessness. And it is consuming the houses of those that swear falsely, and the thief those that steal. And it shall remain in the midst of his house, and shall consume it, both its timber and its stones. That's what happens when a house is utterly ate up by leprosy. And leprosy is a dermatitis, but it's also a parable for sin. And the messenger, the angel who was speaking with me, came out and said to me, lift up your eyes now, and see what is that going forth. So different from the scroll, there's another thing going forth throughout the land. And I, Zechariah, said, what is it? Manna. How interesting. That's what manna means. The manna that fell from the sky in the wilderness to feed the Israelites. Manna means, what is it? Manna, what is it? It's an epha measure. What's an epha measure? An epha is a volumetric measure of grain. If you have a scriptures in the back, there's units of measurement. And if we go to an epha, it's 24 quarts or 22 liters. It's about the size of a 5-gallon bucket. It's about 6 gallons. Okay. So approximately the size of a 5-gallon. Most of us have a mental touch point of a 5-gallon bucket. It's slightly larger than that. So it's not big. Okay. It's an epha measure. Epha measure also was a standardized unit of measure for commerce at that time. It's an epha measure that is going forth. And again, he, the angel, said, "This is their appearance throughout the earth. And see a lead cover lifted up, and this, a woman sitting inside the epha measure." Now the lead cover, this lead disc, was also a standardized unit of weight for commerce. Equal weights and measures. Lead cover weight, epha unit measure. Unequal weights and measures are an abomination to Yahweh. Okay? Read the book of Proverbs. And there's a woman sitting inside the epha measure. Now, some have said that this is all an analogy for Scud missiles and Tomahawk cruise missiles, and maybe. But what are these things? They're weights and measures. And there's a woman sitting inside the epha measure. Well, who's the woman? And he, the angel, said, "This is wrongness." Now, it's rendered as wrongness in the scriptures, but that word in the Strong's is anomia. What is anomia? Here's where things start to get super interesting. Anomia is the opposite of nomos. Nomos is law, used 537 times in the Old Testament. Nomos is Torah, the instruction. Anomia is the opposite of Torah, instruction, law. Anomia is lawlessness. This woman that is wrongness is lawlessness. 1 John 3 verse 4, all who do sin do lawlessness. This woman is Torahlessness. So wrongness is anomia, which is the opposite of Torah. This woman is the opposite of Torah. If you spend any time in the book of Proverbs, you'll know that there's quite a bit about the strange woman. So if you just go to Proverbs 7, "My son, guard my words and treasure up my commands with you. Guard my commands and live. And my Torah as the apple of your eye. Bind them on your fingers. Write them on the tablet of your heart." Ooh, that sounds a lot like the renewed covenant in Jeremiah 31, verses 31 through 34, that Paul quotes directly in Hebrews chapter 8, verses 6 through 13. Write them on the tablet of your heart. Say to wisdom, which is different than knowledge. Wisdom is information put into action, which is, you say you have faith, I will show you my faith by my works. James. Say to wisdom, you are my sister, and call understanding a close friend, to guard you against the strange woman, against the foreigner who flatters with her words. And then it goes on from there. This strange woman, verse 10, "And look, a woman met him dressed like a whore." False beliefs, Hasatan, the deceiver, the whore. With a hidden heart, she was boisterous and stubborn. Her feet did not stay at her own house, now in the street, now in the square, and at every corner she lurks. And she took hold of him and kissed him. She hardened her face and said to him, "Slaughterings of peace offerings are with me. Today I have paid my vows." Oh, you went through the motions of looking righteous, yet here you are. Your husband is away, and here you are hitting on another man. Therefore I came out to meet you, to earnestly seek your face, and I have found you. I have spread my bed with the coverings, the colored linens of Mitzrayim, of Egypt. I've sprinkled my bed with myrrh, aloes, and cinnamon. Come, let us take our fill of carnal love until morning. Come, let us join in an illegitimate covenant relationship. Let us delight ourselves with love. For my husband, Yeshua, the high priest, is not at home. He's not on earth. He's seated at the right hand of Elohim. Home is earth. People are for earth. The renewed heaven and the renewed earth in Revelation. The temple comes down, brothers and sisters. We don't go up to it. It's another nail in the coffin of the rapture doctrine. For my husband is not home. He has gone on a long journey. Yeah, where I go, you cannot come. Master, wherever you go, I go. Where I go, you cannot come. My husband has gone on a long journey. He took a bag of silver with him. Silver, like the parable of the vineyard. Silver, denarius, day's wage for the workers in the vineyard, which represents the kingdom of Elohim. The owner of the vineyard is Yeshua, and the workers are us, believers in Messiah. He took a bag of silver with him. He comes home on the day of covering. Atonement. Atonement is the day of covering. If Yeshua is the high priest, there's one day per year where the high priest wears white robes, not purple robes, not the ephod and the turban. He wears white robes. That's on the Day of Atonement. What is Yeshua wearing in Revelation 19? And I saw he who sat upon the horse, and his eyes were a flame of fire, and on his head he had many crowns, and a name written upon his thigh. Right? And a name which no one knew but himself. White robes dipped in blood. The sin offering on the Day of Atonement as the high priest. So this strange woman here, and look, a woman met him dressed like a whore, anomia, wrongness, lawlessness, represents false worship, this strange woman. It's an illegitimate covenant. It's not your covenant relationship with your wife and the deep spiritual implications of that, because we are the bride and Messiah is the bridegroom, right? And we are supposed to be committed to the Most High in a covenant relationship. My son, guard my words and treasure up my commands with you. Guard my commands and live. Here is the endurance of the saints, those that have a testimony of Yeshua HaMashiach and keep the commands. Guard my commands and live, and my Torah, my instruction, is the apple of your eye. Bind them on your fingers so that they're part of the works of your hands, and write them on the tablet of your heart. Renewed covenant. Say to wisdom, deeds, works, informed by the Spirit and the Torah, you are my sister. She's something that you protect, something that you have a close relationship with. And call understanding a close friend. Understanding, somebody I would seek counsel from, to guard you against the strange woman. False worship, relationship out of covenant, deceit, deception of the enemy, Hasatan, and against the foreigner who flatters with her words. Okay. The foreigner. So let's go back to Zechariah 5. Verse 8. And he, the angel, said, this is wrongness, anomia, lawlessness. And he threw her down into the epha measure and threw the lead weight over its mouth. So inside of our weights and measures is lawlessness. Unequal weights and measures are an abomination to Yahuwah. And I lifted up my eyes and looked and saw two women coming with the wind in their wings. The wind, the spirit, the ruach. Now what's interesting here is they have wings of a stork. Stork is an unclean bird. We don't eat storks. We also don't eat people, although I've had it said in jest, but it's been said. There's no verse that says don't eat people. Well, it does say do not consume the flesh with the blood. But no, we don't eat people. All right, don't eat people. The stork is an unclean bird. These two women, it doesn't say they're messengers. Are they a facsimile of messenger? Let's go a step further. Are women supposed to be in leadership positions in the church, the body of Christ? They're not. Can women lead other women? Yup. Does a woman leading a woman at church supersede a husband leading his wife as one of those women? No, it does not. There's an order here. There's a hierarchy here. And it's not a patriarchy designed to oppress women. It's that there's a natural order, that the burdens of leadership sit better upon the shoulders of a man. Because women are our weaker vessel. That's not to say that they're weak. I know many incredible badass women. And so if that woman's that strong, that tough, that competent, that capable, the implication is that the husband must be even more so. And oftentimes in the relationship is out of balance, where the woman has a stronger relationship with Elohim than the man does. The woman is more competent and capable than the man is, because the man refuses to rise to what it is that Yah made him to be in the first place. And then that breeds resentment in the woman, which means that their marriage is upside down. And an upside down marriage has an incredibly hard time serving Elohim, which goes back to do not be unequally yoked. But what if, the woman, I get this question all the time. Women are like, I'm a believer, but my husband is not. What do I do? How do you know, a wife, that your righteousness will not win a husband? The words of Shaul in the New Testament. So honor your husband, but honor Elohim. Prayer is a huge thing. Women are not supposed to be in leadership positions. When I lifted my eyes and looked, I saw two women coming with the wind in their wings, and they had the wings like the wings of a stork. They lifted up the epha measure between the earth and the heavens. So they're now taking hold of this epha measure. There's also potentially an argument to be made here that women with wings like that of a stork goes back to all the way back to Genesis 6 and corrupted flesh. I don't know. It's fascinating, but I don't know. Chimeras, if you will, human chimeras. Bear, do you really believe in that? It's biblical. It's right there. Corrupted Bedoratov, corrupted DNA, corrupted flesh, which is why Noah was preserved. Because he was the only one that was found righteous in his generations. He was the only one whose DNA was not destroyed. And they had their wings like the wings of a stork, and I lifted up the epha measure between the earth and the heavens. Then I said to the messenger who was speaking with me, where are they taking the epha measure? Where are they taking wrongness, anomia? And he said to me, to build a house for it. Not to sequester it, to build a house for it, to enshrine it, if you will, in the land of Shinar. Shinar is Babylon. Anytime you see the biblical reference to Shinar, the plains of Shinar, the Tower of Babel, Babylon, to Shinar, and it shall be established there and set there on its own base. So, wrongness, anomia, lawlessness will be established in Babylon. Okay. So what's the prophetic nature of this? Well, to this day, Babylon is certainly no power center. However, remember that Zechariah wrote this in 520 BC after Cyrus ends the Babylonian captivity in 538 BC, 18 years earlier. The Second Temple was in the process of being rebuilt when Zechariah wrote this. Remember, part of what Zechariah is doing here is reminding the exiles from the Babylonian captivity who are now back in Judea, hey, Yah loves us. So there's something to be said here that those whose houses are established in lawlessness, the flying scroll, will be utterly consumed. So Zechariah and your people, you don't have to worry about that. Yah's taken a hold of that. Yah's dealing with the people who swear by his name falsely and the thieves, the people who steal. Okay? So you don't have to worry about that, Zech. That's handled. And then this lawlessness, these unequal weights and measures, the lead disc and the epha measure, and anomia, lawlessness, that is being sequestered back in Babylon from whence you came. So it will not be here in the midst of your people. That's near-term prophetic encouragement for Zechariah, who's writing in 520 BC, 4 years prior to when the temple is completed. And remember, Zechariah is a contemporary of Haggai, and they are encouraging the people who are being led by Zerubbabel, who is the governor of Judea at this time. I'd say if this was me, it'd be pretty encouraging to me if the creator of the universe said, hey, I'm going to remove unequal weights and measures, thieves, and people who swear falsely by Yah's name from your midst. I'd give every dime I have for that today amongst air quote brothers and sisters in this greater Israel movement, which is filled with fornicators and adulterators and liars and false witnesses, and like every other denomination, which is disheartening. It is. It's disheartening. And side note, frankly, I'm getting tired of having to pursue on the Caleb house side all kinds of people who swear falsely by Yahweh's name. One cannot engage in the acts that they engage in and say they are a believer in the Most High. And the Torah says, rock pile. But I digress. So the encouragement to Zechariah here is, I am, says Yah, removing from you wrongness, anomia, lawlessness, unequal weights and measures, the thieves and those who swear falsely by my name, and I'm sequestering that back in the land of Shinar, Babylon. That's super encouraging. So keep rebuilding the temple like I told you. I'm going to take all this away from you and put it over here back in Babylon from whence you came. Long-term prophetic? Well, has anomia, lawlessness, wrongness been established upon its own base in its own house in Babylon? This is where things get hairy when people tie this into end times prophecy. It hasn't happened yet. Babylon is certainly not an epicenter of worldly power today. Well, Barrett, no, it's about mystery Babylon. Yeah, but Shinar, the plains of Shinar, is a geographical location. So maybe it is mystery Babylon. Maybe it is Babylon in metaphor, Babylon in parable, kind of similar to how we see the book of Revelation, or at least some eschatology interprets the book of Revelation. I'm a biblical literalist first, and then everything else. And so, right now, there's no power center established in the plains of Shinar, which contributes to the conversation of, are we in end times? No. Are we knocking on the door of it? I don't think we're there yet, brothers and sisters, for myriad reasons. I believe we will know it when we see it. I don't think we will have to be told we're in end times. Because if we do, John owes all of us an apology for taking some liberties with the severity of the book of Revelation. 1/3 of mankind has not died. 1/3 of the grass has not burned. 1/3 of the waters have not turned to blood. There are no two witnesses in Jerusalem, not Israel, because Israel's a people group. Genesis 32. That land's called Canaan, the promised land. There's no two witnesses who have prayed to stop the rain for 3.5 years and called down fire and are issuing plagues upon the people. That hasn't happened. All the merchants of the earth are not crying out, "Woe, woe, Babylon, Babylon has fallen." That hasn't happened yet. We're not in end times. I had somebody ask me on Patreon, do you think we're in the little season? No, I do not. I don't think we're there yet, and that's something that we should rejoice over, honestly. We should be filled with joy that we are not facing that today, because I believe, biblically, when we get to that point, if we, who are hearing these words right now, are participatory in that, it will be so bad that even some of the very elect, some of the strongest believers, will be deceived. So praise Yah, we're not dealing with that. So in a plain reading of Zechariah 5, to say nothing of the long-term prophetic implications, which are myriad, and maybe something that we will revisit with an addendum at a later time. In a plain reading of Zechariah 5 in context of 520 BC, this is continuing in the encouragement from Yahweh to Zechariah, to the people of the house of Judah in the land of Judea, which is part of Canaan after the Babylonian captivity, under the governorship of Zerubbabel, to rebuild the second temple. You catch all that? Keep doing what you're doing, kid. I'm going to remove anomia, lawlessness, far from you. I'm going to remove unequal weights and measures far from you. I'm bringing them unequal weights and measures and lawlessness back to the land that you came from, so they do not dwell in your midst. And Yahweh himself will be tearing down the houses of the wrong, those that swear falsely by his name and those that steal. So righteousness will be established. And that's the point to Zechariah. Righteousness will be established. Keep doing what you're doing. That's Zechariah 5. I appreciate y'all very much. Y'all have a blessed day. Shalom.